Good afternoon, and Latha and Avnish, pleasure to be with you here today. Before we deep dive into this very interesting and very relevant topic, let me try and set the context a little bit. See, in terms of the traditional engineering, it's always focused on creating new products and services, and most of the engineering efforts, have always been contained within the boundaries of the organization, right? Leveraging the organizational knowledge, organizational practices, and while the feedback from customers and stakeholders has always been part of the process, largely the focus was always in terms of the technical feasibility of building the products, right? And in terms of the cost efficiencies, right? And so largely it was a very product-centric approach, right? And this was not, amenable to respond to market dynamics and customer needs in a very agile fashion. But today's world is a phygital world, right? Today the customers expect experiences to be delivered, right? Customized, personalized experiences to be delivered to them, where they want them, when they want them, how they want them. Like Avnish, I remember Accenture talking about the market of one, a paradigm shift from market of many to market of one, if you remember that, right? And this calls for a lot of digital transformation, a lot of digital technologies to be leveraged. And to deliver these experiences, so it's a very software-defined world, right? Like the previous speaker was talking about. And to deliver these experiences, a lot of companies have to come together. The product companies, the platform companies, and to deliver this seamlessly, right? But many examples of this, our panelists would talk a lot more about this, but just to give you a few examples, the way Nike and Apple Watch come together in the context of fitness, the way Volvo and Google come together in the infotainment space, the way Starbucks and Spotify to enhance the experience in a cafe, right? The music experience in a cafe. There's so many more examples which we'll deep dive into as we go through this conversation. So the first driver for emerging business models and the requirement for a new paradigm of engineering is actually the phygital world, right? The second driver that I would like us to reflect on is in terms of sustainability. Right, today there is, the customers are going to buy products which are green products, and green from a perspective of eco-friendly materials, right, made with energy efficient designs and minimal waste, right? And the engineering R&D organizations of the future also have to meet the demands from a circular economy perspective. I think today, if you look at the circularity index, it's hardly 7 to 8%. And ER&D has a huge responsibility to create products for the circular economy, which means products which are the longevity aspect of it, the reusability aspect of it, right, and so on and so forth. And this is not something that one company or one enterprise can actually do. This requires a tremendous amount of collaboration across the industry, across the sectors, pooling the resources, pooling the expertise, and innovating together, right? And of course, there are many other factors besides phygital world and sustainability. There's also drivers like a shift in the consumption models. The models are shifting from, product-centric to more outcome-based, right? Everything as a service kind of models. And then there are challenges around supply chain. All enterprises are looking at how do they make their supply chains more resilient, and so on and so forth, right? So in terms of delivering transformative, innovative solutions to meet all of the above criteria, right? Customers have to really collaborate, right? The collaboration across sectors, across industries. So in that context, paradigms like co-design, co-creation, right, and co-ownership, these paradigms have become strategic tools, right, for enterprises to actually accelerate innovation, reduce the cost, and accelerate the time to market as well. So with that as a context, right, in the new world of engineering, I would like to ask our colleagues here, right, can you talk about some of the instances, standout instances of partnership, of co-creation, right, that is leading to a significant, breakthrough products and solutions in your experience? So Latha, can I start with you?
Yeah, thank you. It's a very interesting question. So I would like to give you some examples from the mobility space, because since I come from the automotive background. And if you look at mobility in the last 10 years, the amount of disruption that has happened in this space is amazing. Whether it is electrified, automated, connected, shared, yearly updated, personalized, I think there are a lot of things which are happening and changing in this industry. And with that, it is pretty much clear that no one player can do things together. Alone. I mean, we need to be together. So I would like to bring in some examples from the organization that I work, which is Continental Automotive. We are basically a 151-year-old German organization. So which would mean that, we were always working on a supplier OEM kind of a relationship in the past. And when we talk about something like autonomous mobility, we have been talking about it from early 90s, and all of us know that even an L2 or an L2 plus is still not a reality. And this cannot come to existence unless we have collaboration with multiple partners. And in the autonomous mobility, some of the examples what we have done across different geographies and across different technologies is helping us to make us faster in the market. One of the examples is, we had tied up with a company called, Umbrella. This is actually a chip manufacturer, and we have tied up with them for Edge AI, because we don't have plans to invest in semiconductor industry, but we need to make faster move in that. So that's one of the examples which we did. And we have another project, what we call as Aurora, which is again to do with the autonomous trucking system, where we partnered with one of the organizations in the US. And this would be something probably for Continental, first of its kind, where we talk about hardware as a product itself. So this is a game changer which are there. Then if you look at in China, we have got Horizon Robotics, where we had collaborated in terms of smart cameras. This is an AI company where we work on the smart cameras as well as the control units. So that's on the radar space, the camera space. And then coming to LiDAR itself, we have actually participated with one company called AI, which is AEYE, again to do with the algorithms and so on. So if you look at it, every space, whether it is semiconductor, whether it is component, and even collaboration with customers. For example, Volkswagen, we have actually broken the traditional supplier OEM relationship model, and we are doing a co-development with them for one of their new server architectures, which is a very very successful product in the market at this point of time. So we have been flexible, and I think it is this, without this co-creation, collaboration across the boundaries, it is not possible for us to excel, forget it, to even survive. So that much is pretty clear. Those are some of the examples from the automotive space. But what I see is that even in the non-automotive space, there are a lot of things which are happening like this. Continental being an automotive, tire, Contitech, rubber, all these things are there together. Recently, we had partnered with a company called Urban Circus. Yeah, Urban Circus is a company which actually manufactures jackets. They manufacture outdoor jackets. Now the question will be that what is an automotive company doing with a jacket manufacturer? So we actually partnered with them to have very specific type of jackets for pedestrians as well as cyclists. And these are things where it can be easily detected through cameras and LiDAR. So this was something like out of the box. We never thought an automotive company would partner with a jacket company. So like that, we see that in the industry, there are things where we are having complementary skills. We are actually, getting skills from the other organizations, cooperating in innovation. And we also have an organization which we call COPACE. COPACE is an organization which actually scouts out with the various startups. And wherever we have gaps, we are partnering with them. And what I'm telling about is a traditional German organization doing so much only in the space of autonomous mobility, and there are much more examples when we talk about the university collaboration, joint research, and so on. Amazing amount of partnership which is happening, because I think in the current era, it is not possible to move forward without this, and still autonomous mobility is only at an L2+, where we want to go to L5, long way to go, and I'm sure that we need more partnership with, maybe now with Google. We organized a partnership with Google now, again with Amazon, the cloud coming in. So it's a very different era at this point of time, the way we look at partnership, the way we look at OEMs, the way we look at policymakers, everything is changing, and we need to co-create, collaborate, co-design, go to market together. A whole lot of things have changed.
Thanks a lot, Latha. That was very insightful. So moving on to Avnish. Avnish, she's given excellent examples of automotive. You are the champion of open innovation and head of ventures at Accenture. So can you shed some light in terms of some of the other industries, right? Co-creation happening in other industries in your experience.
Yeah, thanks very much. So, there is an old African saying that if you want to go fast, you go alone, and if you want to go further, you have to go together. I think this is probably very, very relevant in today's time, especially the kind of external environment we are all living and working in, right, with all sorts of turmoil in the geopolitical scenario and the pace of disruption from technology, and also the customer buying behavior changed significantly. As Latha very rightly mentioned, that there is no one organization, whether it is Continental or Accenture or anybody else, who can keep track of what is going on. So I think from Accenture's perspective, we are very clear that to not only survive, but to thrive in this VUCA++ kind of a world, we have to innovate. And if you want to innovate, then the other side, innovation and collaboration are two sides of the same coin. You cannot be doing internal innovation only and then hope that you will be developing world-class product and services in the time in which is required. You might still be able to do it, but nobody has the luxury of time to do it, right? So this not invented here syndrome, which I know is rampant in many traditional industries, is not something which will take you very far. So from a Accenture perspective, I'll give you a few examples how we are doing this. One is that we are co-creating to scale, right? Co-creating for growth. We have a program called Accenture Client Co-Innovation Program. This started in 2017. And in this year, we had about 1,000 projects where Accenture and our clients are co-creating and doing joint product development. This is something which is very unique, because what it allows you is that it allows the client feedback very early in your product development and your service cycles, right? So this is a hugely successful program where we are doing joint product development and then also commercializing this. For example, we have done this with Bangalore International Airport. Accenture and Bangalore International Airport work together to do joint product development in terms of coming up with airport technologies. And those same airport technologies are now being commercialized by us and taken to other airports in the world, right? So that's first in terms of co-creating for growth. The second is about collaborating at scale. And this is where the Open Innovation Program comes in. I lead Accenture Open Innovation and Ventures Program, where we work with thousands of deep science and deep tech startups. And in this model, the deep tech startup brings the product, IP, and platform, while Accenture brings customer service, our domain expertise, and our industry expertise. So we are working with a lot of these very, what I call 2-inch wide and 20-inch deep startups, right? They only have one capability, but in that capability, they are better than anybody else. And Accenture cannot afford to build these point products on our own. So we integrate them into our solution stack and then take them jointly to our client. So that's the second in terms of co-collaborating. And the third is co-investment. It's very important also that we make strategic investments in partners like this. It's not just about partnership. So for example, our latest investment is in a startup called Pixel. Some of you would have heard about them. They are a space tech startup. So the question would be, what's Accenture doing in investing in space tech startup? So Pixel provides hyperspectral imaging, right? We integrate hyperspectral imaging with drone data and sensor data on the ground. And they are then converted into data models for our industries, and example like regenerative agriculture, mining, marine debris, monitoring of pipelines, and oil fields. So this is a way where we are integrating all these technologies by making strategic investments. So, that's one example which I wanted to put. The other example is that we have a very robust academic program as well. For example, we are doing a Center of Excellence on autonomous robotic systems with IIT Madras. Now, in terms of some of the use cases which we are solving there, one is on autonomous factory. The other one is about autonomous retail bots, where it's called actually show bots, where we are producing these bots which have emotional intelligence so that they can serve customer and customer needs. And the third one which we are doing is around neuromorphic computing for cockpit of the future with Indian Institute of Science. So if you look at this program where we are working with IIT Madras and Indian Institute of Science, we are not only working with the professors and the PhD students there, but we are also working with the incubated startups in those colleges. So this is where Accenture, the academia and the startups all come together in a very disruptive way of making new products. So that would be my initial comments in terms of how we are solving and how this is happening across industries.
Thank you so much, Avnish. I think, and thanks for giving some insights in terms of how to engage academia, right, in terms of collaboration and co-creation. You've given very good examples. So moving on, I mean, it's clear that the lines are blurring, right? The industry lines are blurring. Latha talked about how the auto and the tech companies are coming together, right, to create value. And Avnish talked about, and you talked about how industry, academia, and the startups are coming together to create sustainable value as well. So with the lines blurring, how do you think the traditional industries are getting impacted, right? Part A. Part B, what are the strategies that the company should embrace to drive this collaboration and co-creation? So Avnish, probably we can start with you on this.
Yeah, no, it's excellent question. I think if you look at how things are changing, a lot of innovation which we see happening now is happening at the cusp of multiple industries, right? So if you are, for example, sitting in pharma or life sciences, you might see that innovation is happening from the wellness point of view. Similarly, there are other industries where innovation is happening, and those innovations are going, and those use cases are very applicable to other industries. So I think one of the first point I like to tell the audience here is that you should be constantly scanning for new innovations which are outside your industry, especially in where disruptive technologies are concerned, because you will be surprised at how many ideas and even how many IPs can be taken from those industries for your business. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that in terms of the time to market and value, right? Because of the pace of innovation is happening at such a fast pace that there is a significant reduction to time to value and time to market. That would be a second major change. The third is about ownership. So traditional ownership models are now being questioned, and there is a talk about co-ownership, and that you have equal stakes in the innovation and in the products which you are developing. So that's another significant change which I see in terms of how boundaries are blurring. In terms of how to navigate it, first of all is the open innovation thing which I talked about. That there is a lot of things in terms of trying to build stuff on your own, but you have to be practicing open innovation programs. I think that's very critical that you do that. More important is also a cultural and mindset shift, right? A lot of traditional organizations still think that these are very proprietary things which cannot be shared. I'll give you an example. Some of you may have heard of this alliance, which I am part of the executive council, called Plug-in Alliance. Now, Plug-in Alliance was started with Intel and IIT Bombay sign. And now there are about 137 members there. And this is focused just on Industry X.0 and digital manufacturing. You will be surprised to know that all the major manufacturers in India, whether it is Bosch or whether it is ITC or anybody else, they are all part of this. And there is significant amount of collaboration and knowledge sharing which is happening. So for example, if you look at, if they are looking for things which can improve their productivity, they are asking us to look, okay, what are the best startups which can help do that? But there is a sharing of that. It's not that it's a one-to-one model. Organizations are learning from other people's mistakes, and people are happy to share that as well. So this Plug-in Alliance is a great example of how in manufacturing and Industry X.0, competitors are coming together, and not only competitors but industry bodies. There are startups, there are VCs, there is ISB involved from an academia perspective. So you can see this culmination of very different minds trying to solve some very tough problems. And one of the problems which we are trying to solve is sustainability, right? And it's something which we are obviously very clear about, that this is something which all of us need to come together to solve. So when you look at what I call tough tech is deep tech plus, right? Which is where you are looking at climate and sustainability. You need to have this kind of a forum or a platform in place. So that would be something I would advocate, and that, as I said, cultural and mindset shift is important. You also need to continuously make sure that your employees are learning about new collaborative models which are coming. That's very important, that the employees are kept well aware of. And then finally, in terms of data, right? So what kind of data is core to you, and what kind of data can be shared with the ecosystem partners? So there needs to be an entire end-to-end data strategy as well.
Thanks, Avnish. Latha, you want to add to it?
I think Avnish covered most of the points. What I would like to say is, I think I was just listening to the previous speaker. I think most of the companies are individualistic still. Yeah, so how do we actually get into the mode that we can share? And what is the kind of transparency that we can have? What kind of mindset we can inculcate in our own teams of working together? And also it is very much clear that what is the benefit that is being reaped by both parties. That is very important, because that, if you don't define it in the beginning, the co-creation, collaboration gets diluted at some point of time. So that clarity should be there. And I think we should also look at topics like, the IP infringement, and how do we protect our own intellectual property, whether you have NDAs in place. I think there are different models, and I would say, if you are collaborating within India, the IP laws, many companies know pretty well, surprisingly. But maybe when you go to the other geographies, as I mentioned, some of our collaborations are maybe with China, with US and others. So we really have to find out what are the things working for other geographies, other markets, and and if you have different, like for example, I told about this urban circus. We are talking about two companies collaborating where they don't even know what is the kind of products they have and how they can collaborate, right? So there needs to be immense amount of clarity when you do that, immense amount of tracking when you do that, and I think some of the other mitigations Avnish already mentioned about, yeah.
Absolutely.
Just to add one more point, in terms of why collaboration doesn't happen, I would just like to say that you would not have seen a bottle where the bottleneck is not in the top, right? So it all has to be led from the top, is what I would just want to add.
Sure. So I think probably we have a few minutes left. So probably I'll jump to my last question before we open the house for questions, right? Other than IP infringement, which you already talked about, and protecting the intellectual property for sure, do you see any other challenges in terms of transitioning to a collaborative and co-creation models?
Okay, maybe one example again, which I can bring in from the mobility space. Since the technology is moving so fast and the environment is moving so fast, we have to co-create with different partners. For example, it could be OEMs, it could be tier 1 suppliers, IT companies. When you talk about automated, the driving part, we also have to look at the V2X, the infrastructure providers, the legislation, the government. I think the list is endless. I think if you just lift it, maybe you'll get 20, 30 partners there. So one of the challenges is also the understanding of the business among each of these parties, and the standardization. So standardization is a big topic in automotive still, because we have been talking about it for ages now. We have a lot of forums which are there, but standardization is minimal. And when we want to have this integration from third-party software, or maybe multiple parties supplying for the same product, I think that becomes the challenge, and that's something which we really need to take care. Other than the other topics that we already spoke about.
Yeah. So I'll just add to that, right? So yeah, standards, especially in the context of sustainability, is a big, that need to be addressed. For example, there's a sustainability apparel coalition where, between Adidas and Nike and H&M, they're part of that. And they jointly come together to kind of create the sustainable standards, right? They created something called the Higgs Index, right, which they use for apparel and for footwear. So I think we need a lot of such initiatives to create those standards, like you rightly said. So Avnish, you want to add anything else to the challenges?
I think everything has been talked about, but the technology integration, right? When we are, for example, working with multiple startups and multiple different partners, then obviously in terms of how do you integrate with the APIs and other stuff. If you ask the startups that how difficult it is, they'll say they can do it in in 2 days or 3 days, right? Everything is that easy, but to be honest, it is not. And so that's a big thing. And then secondly, in terms of the speed of working, when Accenture works or a big corporate works, we think of next quarter or first half, second half. Startups work yesterday, today. That's the speed at which they are working. So that is something which you need to align. And then the third is obviously the mindset in terms of how you come together and what are the expectations which have been set. So these are some things which are there to address. But I think the value coming out of all this kind of a collaboration is significantly higher than not doing it.
Thank you. I think we can keep co-creating this discussion, but I guess we are standing between our audience and the lunch, right? So maybe let me open up the house for questions, if you have any for the panelists. Oh, there are quite a few actually.
Thank you.
Hi, Latha. Myself Lima. You have mentioned Continental is right now standing a position of L2 in terms of autonomous mobility. My question is to progress further and also keep in mind future ready and time to market. Do you have any plans of co-creation to reach from L2 to L5?
We have plans because that's the only way.
Okay.
Yeah. Because as I mentioned, there are multiple partners. For example, if you want to have L5 vehicles on the road, it is very clear that we also need to have the V2X and all the entire infrastructure has to be ready, right? So we have to partner with the government, with the legislation bodies, with maybe the 5G, the network providers. There are a whole lot of others who are non-automotive where we have to partner with. And that's the only way to go forward. So there is no other choice. And I'm sure that all the automotive companies and the OEMs are pretty much aware of it, and all of us are moving in this direction. Yeah.
Hi.
Okay.
My name is Suvarna Goel. I lead marketing for engineering, research and development, Capgemini. And this question is for Avnish. Avnish, I couldn't agree more with you when you say co-create, co-develop with us as IT service provider, ER&D, academia, startup. The one point where I'm sure your organization like ourselves, wonder the appetite for the market per se, particularly India, the client part. How willing are they? They raise their hands, sure, then the same thing happens. You create something and it just sits down someplace. It doesn't see the light of the day. You and I can have huge amount of conviction, but it still doesn't move. So your thoughts on that, Avnish?
Thank you very much. Excellent question, I think. If you look at, especially I want to give the example of deep tech, the way deep tech has evolved over time in the last 7-8 years. One of the reasons why the progress has been relatively slow is because of the client behavior, to be honest, right? While startups and consultants and partners like Accenture were ready, the client was not. Because clients still wanted this very robust kind of solution, then had a little bit of risk averseness in terms of working with multiple small partners. And that's where for example, Accenture Ventures comes in. We act as a bridge maker between the startups and academia on one side and our global 2000 clients on the other side. And what we are helping do is to mitigate risk, and we are helping them to reduce their time to market and value, and we are helping them to take their POCs and to scale those POCs, right? For a long time, our clients have unfortunately wasted time by doing these POCs, and nothing has happened out of those POCs. No POC has been taken for commercialization at scale. So these were definitely challenges through which the deep tech system has evolved over time. Now I see an improvement because after COVID, the pace of innovation has accelerated significantly. And I think the clients know very well that if they don't jump into the bandwagon now, they will be completely eliminated. So I see a lot more openness now, especially after COVID. But your question was very valid.
Oh,
Okay, maybe one last question.
I will keep it very simple. My name is Ailur Subramani. I represent Renault Nissan Tech. We spoke a lot on open innovation. And of course, I fully appreciate and understand that. I kind of advocate the open innovation for the group. My question is, how are we, from a mindset and business point of view, ready to accept failures in open innovation, especially for product and, let's say, the breakthrough innovations? Because not all the products that we would probably develop with co-creation would end up in a product or commercialization, but we should also do it, no choice, right? Not everything will go to the product. So from a leadership point of view, how are big organizations, how much we are prepared to fail? Is there any examples or your thoughts on it?
So, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, since it is not a choice, I think we need to do it.
Sure.
And if you have maybe 10 partnership, it is clear that maybe 3 out of them fail. And I think it's a conscious decision that all of us make, that we have maybe only a 70% of success. And that is acceptable at this point of time. And I think the same thing which we have to do the employees also. When we talk about different business models, whether it is technology or business model, we need to tell them that, yes, hey, some of them will fail and it is fine, and we learn from that and move on. So I think that's a mindset change we need, and organizations, in fact, are really focusing on it. Even from our own company, I think not every partnership was a success. Not every research with an academia was a success, right? So it happens, and I think it is it's kind of accepted now.
So sort of we should be prepared to lose some money as well as time.
Money, time, and maybe sometimes people
Resources.
also.
Exactly. Yeah.
Failure,
Thank you so much.
failure is a big part of
Big part of
innovation.
learning,
right?
exactly.
You cannot innovate if you are not ready to fail.
True.
And you cannot innovate if you are not ready to take risk. So I
Absolutely.
think these are very important mindset changes, as Latha is saying.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Probably
so
I'll just add one phrase to this is try fast, fail fast. Right? That's what the boards and the executive committees would expect. Right? Yeah. Okay, I'm afraid we don't have time for more questions. I know it's a very important topic, a very relevant topic. So probably we can continue these conversations over the networking, over lunch, and in the afternoon and tomorrow. But Latha and Avnish, pleasure talking to you. Very insightful conversations. I'm sure the audience found it very useful as well. Thank you, and look forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you.
For more content on tech and leadership, subscribe to NASSCOM YouTube channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.